Many blessings to all of you. How are you? I hope that you guys are doing well and holding on tight as we experience the Lion's Gate portal. We are today 7/29, and so it's still in the commencement period. I'm sure that most of you have probably read or heard or already aware of the Lion's Gate. Probably, in my opinion, one of the most auspicious gateways that we experience throughout the calendar year, the physical calendar year. But of course, there's a galactic one, and this one is very, this Lion's Gate is very in tune with the galactic calendar, which started on the 7/25. And so, a lot of energy, a very auspicious time to be still, believe it or not, I feel, and to integrate, and to assimilate, to calibrate that energy, that potent 12th dimensional energy, of the encodements of upgrades that's coming through. And that's basically one of the gifts that we receive from the Lion's Gate. They are a 12th dimension of existence, which is the Syrians, the lions. And during this auspicious time when their sun aligns with the earth, just like the sun radiates, illuminates, right? And the energy is, like a beam beaming into whatever is in its presence. We're being beamed and infused and calibrated with this incredible energy. Yeah, it's intense. A lot of closures, and we hear that word all the time, closure, new beginnings, all these energetic times are always opportunities to sort of move and navigate out of one state into another, the elevator, I like to call it. This one is probably the most powerful one. You have the lion's energy behind you, roaring and propelling, that movement. So don't be surprised if things are happening very, I don't want to say erratically, but sort of out of left field, something that's been brewing, situations, relationships, and all of a sudden taking a sharp, turn into a finale or a resolution or a completion of sorts, because that's the power of this Lion's Gate energy. I know that most of you are not in the tri-state area. I'm hoping that today I get a confirmation for a space that I'm looking to rent, because I always do hold an event for the Lion's Gate. And this year, I'm so excited that we're holding the intention that a beautiful friend and colleague who's very cosmic is gonna join me in doing a cosmic earth fusion event. From my connection with the lions, the Syrians, I was asked that it was important to hold a balance between the fusions of the cosmic realm and the earth realm, and so I'm really excited to put that together. And when I do, I will come back and put a little announcement in the event that you happen to be in the tri-state area. It's probably one of the greatest times, as I said, to really get into a place of alignment, right? And so I just kind of wanted to chime in. I don't have too much time, but one of the viewers, Lady Lazuli, I believe, posed a question about the difference between twin flames and karmatic relationships. And that's a great question, and it's a complex one too. I would say that the biggest difference that immediately comes to mind is that we can be in a karmatic relationship with many people. It doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic partner. We can have a karmatic relationship with our parents, with our children, with our friends, with our relatives, and with a significant other. Twin flame relationships are romantic relationships for the most part. Excuse me. I don't like to box anything in, so I say for the most part. And again, Luna and I think, did a show a little while back in the Emerald Paradigm about the push-pull experience that happens in twin flame relationships. Usually there's a diamond in the rough, which means they're little, they're not very awakened, they have a lot of resistance, anger issues, they're sort of stuck. And then you have a higher aspect, which is, and it could be either of the flames, there's no judgment, you know, but one tends to be awoken, you know, spiritual, walking their mission, holding the field of unity, you know, trying to propel and move forward. And because there's a cord, because of the relationship, and because there's a polarity, this push-pull kind of thing happens in these twin flame relationships that have not reached the place of unification, of vibrating to the best of their ability on the same, in the same field, in the same frequency. Karmatic relationships are another distinction, is that in twin flame relationships there's this, because of this push-pull, there's this passion that is undescribable, and yet there's also this almost like repelling, unable to communicate polarity, you know. So it's almost like you love and you hate at the same time. And you know, that roller coaster is very prevalent in twin flame relationships. In karmatic relationships, there's, oh, I don't know about there being that passion, but more so the debates, you know, the rebuttals, the not being able to get on the same page, and yet finding that you continually repeat the same patterns within the relationship. It often affects other people, children, or other members of the family. And yeah, I had to pause there for a minute, I'm sorry. And there is resistance, like in the twin flame, but I'm trying to like really find the words to measure the intensity. There may not be that intensity in our karmatic relationship, but this feeling almost like of not being able to let go of righteousness, of, you know, of needing to continue to have this battle, whatever it may be, which you may find yourselves disagreeing on and hurting each other, but not necessarily with the intensity that's so heart-driven and so solar plex-driven, like piercing when it comes to twin flame relationships. There clearly is a distinction. Once the karma is fulfilled to some, you know, fulfilled, or to some degree fulfilled, the relationship of karmatic relationships starts to fizzle out. And once it is completed, there's no turning back, there's no reason to, you're able to move forward and to engage and pursue other relationships. This twin flame situation on the other end, there's always a lingerance. You know, no matter, even if you move on and you're happy, there's a tattoo, because twin flames are part of the same DNA structure, and so almost like twins, there's always an awareness, there's always that connection, and it does not necessarily mean that we can't be happy, and by any means, especially in the new realm that we find ourselves in. Again, I think that I did a share in the Emerald Paradigm. I know that most of you who are here in the channel with me, I was graced to get to know from Emerald Paradigm and Loon. And the reason why I keep addressing to that show is I've authored 16 books, and 2 of those books are, I believe, the subject of these relationships, you know, female divine, hurt no more, and male divine, hide no more. And you know, when I wrote those books, I was concerned that, you know, they were catered to genders, you know, female divine or male divine, but it isn't, because we both carry feminine and masculine energy. And so even a masculine gender, a male who finds himself hurting constantly in relationships, should definitely consider reading female divine. And a masculine, or I should say a female gender who recognizes that she carries a predominant masculine energy, could benefit from reading Male Divine, Hide No More. And, you know, think about it for a minute. You know, if we look at the titles of those books, Hurt No More and Hide No More, you know, it's almost like the perfect fit for what doesn't work. You know, the female divine, whether she's a female gender or male, are hurting because they're trying to pull the masculine energy from this hiding place of not stepping forward, of not being present, of not being committed, of not showing up, of not growing, right? Not expanding. And because there's this attachment, then the female divine sacrifices, settles, which is a big part of that book, and hurts, you know. And so, and I do speak particular in the female divine Hurt No More about the twin flame aspect and karmatic relationships. So if you're really interested in learning a little bit more, I don't usually push my books in any venue, but I would definitely recommend that you take a look at those 2 books. And you know, I want to finally end at least this segment by saying there's some amazing twin flame couples out there right now, vibrating and throttling, you know, like incredibly delicious, beautifully. But these are primarily twin flames that made it through the threshold at the end of 2012. And what that means is they were able to unify, they were able to persevere and, you know, come together, maybe not clone-like, you know, but at the very least, the higher aspect may be in the limelight, doing, you know, spiritual work, and being of service, and at the very least, the counterpart is supportive, and that in itself, whoops, sorry about that, in itself was enough to qualify them to make it through the threshold. If they're not supportive, if they're still, or if they were still resistant and, you know, just helping a little or supporting a little, but still with this, you know, resistance to not expand their consciousness, then it is my opinion that those twin flames sort of lost an opportunity. And the reason why is because at the cusp of 2012, you know, we entered the new paradigm. And the twin flames, even though they will be eternally sanctioned as a special creation, they had a purpose, and the purpose was that through their struggle prior to 2012, they would experience unification, because that energy of unification was ultimately geared to help the ascension process. And the twin flames were the holders that would greatly assist in that. But now that the new paradigm is in place and the unification to a great degree has occurred, the twin flames are, well, the ones that made it through the threshold are thriving, and there's evidence of that. You see them working in harmony, you see them supporting each other, you see them complementing each other, and that's the key word. The field that is holding now the new paradigm is complementary energies, and it doesn't necessarily have to be couples in a romantic relationship, but any unified collective that can hold that field, whether it be a couple or tribes, family members, friends, collaborators that come together, because as that platform was created for the new paradigm, there is a great need for acceleration to be able to grow it and to create that foundation, to make it more solid. And so the new kids in town, so to speak, are complementary energies, whereas 11, the number 11, among the many things that it represents, was a representation of twin flames, the reflection of the one. 2-2 is the second wave, is become very prominent in numerology, and coming up, people seeing, and that's because this really is a second wave to the ascension, and the twos represent complementary energies. Yeah. Anyway, I've got to run, so I'm not going to do a reading, but I promise that I will be back within the next day, probably, or two. As soon as I get this confirmed, I just want to put it out there for anyone who is in the tri-state area. Again, we'll be holding a Lionsgate, hopefully, amazing event here in the tri-state area. And I will come back and also offer an oracle reading during this incredible auspicious time that we're experiencing. Yes? Until then, which will be in the next day or two, I leave you always with my love, with my light, and with my peace. Stay conscious, stay open, listen. I would say not a period where we should be running around too much, trying to figure out answers or trying to get answers from any external place, but going internally and really harnessing the potent energies that are coming through. Yes? Love you. Bye-bye. See you soon.